All right, one of my favorite snacks is chips and dip, obviously. Now, when I like to do that, I like to have Ripple chips, and my favorite dip is a homemade onion dip that I've been making for a very, very long time, an adaptation of something from when I was a kid. And that's just plain old sour cream and onion soup mix, dry onion soup mix. I like to usually add a couple of things into it just to spice it up, some paprika or something like that. So today I'm gonna make a sourdough that attempts to incorporate some similar flavors. So let's check it out. To get started, I've got 500 grams of strong baker's flour, just some nice white flour. And to that, I'm going to be adding some of my spices here. So I've got, this is just dry onion soup mix, and it's 30 grams of 0.6% based on the flour weight here. I'm going to mix that in, and to that I'm also going to add 0.2% or 10 grams of smoked paprika. That sounds fun. It'll splash up the color just a little bit here as well. I'm just mixing this quickly with a fork so that it's nicely mixed throughout. One of the nice things about this dry soup mix, it does have those chunks of dehydrated onions that'll be in here too. I think I'm going to add some chives a little bit later on, just for a little bit more color and a little bit more fresh herb flavor. There we go, that's good. I'm just going to set this aside for a quick second. And now I'm going to have my liquid, and for this I only have so far 150 grams, this is 30% of filtered water, not a lot of that, because I've got 45% or 225 grams of sour cream, and this is 14% milk fat sour cream. I'm just going to add this in here. I've never used sour cream in a sourdough before. I'm not entirely sure how this is going to play out when I go to mix the dough initially. So I do have a little bit of more water set aside so that I can possibly bump the hydration just a little bit. I mean, if we count the sour cream as water, which I don't know if it equates quite like that, this would be a 75% hydration dough. But let's see what happens here. So I've mixed that sour cream into the water. I'm going to add in all of my flour. And I'm going to attempt to mix it. And we'll see how sticky or dry or wet or whatever it turns out to be. I'll just mix this up for a minute or so here. Okay, and I can already tell that this is drier than I want it to be. So I've got here, this is 50 grams more, or 50 mils of filtered water. I'm going to add that in. See what that does. Oh yeah, that's already seeming quite a bit better. Okay, so this is a reasonably stiff dough right off the bat here, but I am going to let this autolyse here for probably at least an hour. I'm just waiting on my leaven at this point, so when that's ready, we will add it. And after 1 hour, this is our dough. It smells super oniony. I'm very excited about that. I've got some really nice leaven here. This is the second sourdough I've done, so it's deflated just a little bit here because I was digging into it. However, I'm going to go ahead and add 25%, 25% or 125 grams of this leaven. Perfect. I actually got that right to the gram. Very impressive. So now I'm just going to moisten my hands with some filtered water. I'm going to spread this over the top and then poke it in here with my fingers. And then just using some pinch and folds here, I'm going to incorporate this throughout. It's always easier to tell whether you're getting the leaven all the way throughout the dough when it's darker like this, when there's a dramatic color difference between the leaven and the dough, because as soon as you don't see any more of that far whiter leaven, you know that it's all mixed in. Okay, so I think I've got this all nicely incorporated here. I'm not seeing any big pockets of that leaven. So now I'm going to go ahead, cover this up. I'm actually going to give it an hour now because I'm skipping the salt phase. I'm not adding any salt just because that onion soup mix is really quite salty. I think that'll take care of that for this dish. After 1 hour, I'm going to see if I can pull off a stretch and fold here. Oh yeah, that's gonna work. So I'll do a little stretch and fold action here. Oh, this smells so oniony. I cannot wait to see how this turns out. All right. And let it fold. I'm going to let it rest half an hour again and we'll come back. So after that time, I'm going to do a quick little lamination here. I'm just going to pull out this dough and making sure my hands are nice and wet, I'm just going to start to stretch it out here. It's going to take me a minute or so to get it nice and flat. All right, so now that I have that, I've got some ripple chips here. I spoke of them. I've got some. I'm going to be honest, this is just two like large handfuls that I crushed up. I didn't bother to measure them out. So it really depends on how flat you can get your little lamination here. And then I have some fresh garden chives. Again, this was like probably 8 decent strands of that I just chopped up here. And we're going to be adding that to this dough. So I have no idea what these chips are going to do. This is truly experiment time here. I'll get some of those just in that middle third, as one does when adding stuff during the lamination. I'm gonna fold that over, kind of pat out any air bubbles. The same thing here again. Get a bunch of these chips in here, which is also, of course, adding salt to this, hence me not needing to add any salt to the dough itself, because that's really just for flavor anyway. And oh, got a little hole there, unfortunately. Had that. I'll go to the little middle third here. Oh, pretty much going to use up all these chives for sure. All right, and there was a technical error there, so I missed the end of the lamination. However, I did get through most of those chips and most of those chives, and it's all in the dough, and I'm going to cover this up and give it another half hour. Well, speaking of technical errors, something happened to the couple of shots that I took of the coil fold that I did with the sourdough, and after that 30 minutes, I gave it a coil fold where I picked it up, kind of pulled it around to the bottom, rotated 90 degrees, did the same, put it back 30 minutes in between, so 2 of those coil folds. And you can check that in a lot of my other videos in the sourdough playlist there if you want to see the actual coil folds in action. I don't know, shame on me. All right, so I gave that another 90 minutes after that last fold, and I'm now just going to lightly flour my hands and pop it out onto the countertop, and I'm going to give it a quick pre-shaping just by spinning like so. And by not flouring my quartz countertop here, I find it sticks really nicely, but it's not so sticky I can't get it off afterwards. I'm just going to leave it like that and cover it up and give it 5 minutes. Okay, so after 5 minutes, I'm just going to quickly pre-coat my banneton with some rice flour. Like so, all nice and covered. And I'm going to flour my hands just so I can manipulate this dough a little bit more. Although, honestly, it has not changed shape too much since that pre-shaping, which is a good sign. And light little dusting of flour on the top of it. In we go, and I'm going to go ahead, cover this up, and get it in the fridge overnight. Morning of the bake, I just uncovered this here. I've got my oven preheated. It's at 500 degrees, and it has been for an hour with the combo cooker cast iron in there heating up. So I'm going to cover it up with some parchment. I'll flip it. Look at that, beautiful. Already some nice rice flour on there. I am going to do something with this when I uncover it, but for now I'm going to toss it in the oven. I'm going to have it at 440 degrees for 30 minutes, covered up with the combo cooker. Get that other half on there. So like I said, 30 minutes at 440. After that 30 minutes, I'm going to go ahead and remove the lid. And now, I'm going to pull this out for a second because I'm going to try something. Because this is an onion dip sourdough, I do want to have a little bit more of this whole potato chip action going on here. So just slightly moistening the bread. I'm going to sprinkle some of these leftover crunched up ripple chips on the exterior here, and just hoping that they wind up sticking. I would have done this initially, but I was worried that they might possibly burn. So back into the oven we go, and I'll check on it in probably right around 20 minutes. I'm going to set it at 430 degrees. All right, so after 21 minutes, I believe this looks like it is done. So I'm just going to pop it out, get it onto here, and let us take a closer look. Hey, look at that. Those chips got kind of nice and golden brown. The outside looks like it's really nicely done. So now I just need to wait for this to cool down and then we can slice in. Here we are. It's a moment of truth. This bread looks really nice. It smells delicious. But does it taste the way we want? Let's find out. All right, let us cut in here. Oh, I'm losing a couple of chips. Here we go on the inside. Very nice. Oh, okay. I'm going to cut off a little slice and have a taste here. All right, the great experiment. That tastes remarkably similar to what I was going for. It's really, really moist with that sour cream in there. So soft. I haven't had a bread like this before. This is absolutely delightful. And that onion soup mix through there absolutely replicates that flavor of that dip. A little bit of that smoked paprika is fantastic. And then it's fun just with those little bits of fresh chives and stuff in there. This is really great. And some chips to go with it. Fantastic. Really fun experiment. So yeah, till next time, keep it at 11.